And
Yep.
we all have the potential to be cowardly. So what I'm saying is, within our human nature, we have the potential to be cowardly, each of us. And that we also have the potential to be brave.
The future of dentistry belongs to the innovators. Welcome to Innovation in Dentistry. I'm your host, Sean Zayas, and I believe that the future of dentistry is going to be unbelievably great over the next decade and 2 decades. But the question isn't that. The question is, are you going to be part of what makes dentistry great?
Hey guys, so here I am with a dear friend of mine, Dr. Chad Johnson. And I just want to say, first of all, Chad, you do not fit a mold. If there's one thing I would say, is that you are just out of the box. And I love your perspective, the way your mind works. So welcome to the show. It is great to have you.
Sean, thanks so much, man. I'm looking forward to some fun conversation. It's too bad we don't have 3 hours in front of us, because we could do it.
Yeah, I remember meeting you, Chad, at a PDA workshop. And it was kind of after hours, and I'm sitting there journaling, probably reading some book. And
Yep.
I see you like about to get on the elevator, and I just shout out to you, "Hey, Chad." And all I know is that it was already late, and probably 2.5 hours later, you finally were like, "Okay, I probably need to go."
Right.
But
Well,
it was
because
so
I think
hard.
we started at 9 o'clock, and honestly, that's like bedtime for me. And so, I mean, but you know what? It was so worth it. But there came a point where we were approaching midnight or after midnight, where it was like, okay, I actually want to keep going, but I don't think I don't think I can think. And we've been so engaged. It was fantastic. And our friendship from there on forward has been just as engaging. And so it's quite a pleasure to be on this podcast, to have listeners co-engage with us.
So you not just run a very successful practice, your team members rave about you, but you also have your own podcast. Just tell me about that.
Yeah, so Reagan Robertson and I are both within the Productive Dentist Academy sphere, and that's where obviously I met you. And so we've been doing podcasts for let's see, 3 years together. Before that, I was with Victoria Peterson doing the podcast, but she passed it off to Reagan to co-host with me. And we're coming up on our 200th episode. So people can check that out at productivedentist.com. And I think it might be /podcast or podcasts. Dr. Bruce Baird also has podcasts that are within there. And Victoria Peterson has investment grade practices podcast. And so, within the Productive Dentist Academy, or what we call PDA sphere, we have 3 podcasts that are different topics, and ours is more casual, with talking about business concepts. It's not clinical. It's talking about business concepts. Victoria is talking about with investment grade practices, talking about how to make your practice worth keeping or worth selling, but making your business bottom line work. And Bruce does more of a monologue style, like I told you, and his is basically just talking about stuff that he shares at workshops, how to get your practice, the button gear for your practice, and getting yourself better as a leader, and all the stuff that he talks about at a workshop. He brings it up 15 minutes at a time on his monologue. And it's really cool because, I mean, man, it's not like he says, well, and I'll share the last idea with you if you go on the workshop. He shares it all. It's really cool. I think for posterity's sake, 20, 40 years from now, people can still listen to Bruce's business advice, and it'll still be pertinent. It'll be timeless stuff. So that's awesome that he's doing that for his legacy.
I feel like all of you guys at PDA have that same just spirit of generosity.
Yep.
When I meet Reagan, you, Victoria, Bruce, you just want to make dentistry better. And I noticed with any high achiever that I see in dentistry, that I feel like there's a like-mindedness with me, it's that they're playing the long game. They're not trying to get on top of people or do some shortcut so that they can reach some pinnacle on their own. they really want to pour themselves out and
Yeah.
serve. And it's just a super easy way to honor Victoria, you, Reagan, and Dr. Baird. Okay, I need to ask though. I have no problem on this podcast. Do you want me to call you Dr. Johnson?
No.
You sure?
Yes, Chad is just fine. I mean,
Because
listen,
Dr.
so
Johnson sounds
I
nice.
know, doesn't it sound so fancy? And that's just not me. So I grew up around this area here in the Des Moines, Iowa area. And so all my patients are, well, no, a good amount of my patients are old, longtime friends and family and stuff like that. And they just know me as Chad too. And it doesn't bother me. It's just realistically, authentically down to earth. And I like it. So Chad is just fine.
Okay, so
CJ, Ocho Cinco, all of it. Yeah.
oh, that's you.
Yeah. That's me. It's been me the whole time. I just do
uh,
football on the weekends. Yeah.
our video producer's like, wait a second, you're interviewing Chad Ochocinco? I'm like, no.
The dentistry one. Right.
The more famous Chad
The
Johnson
more famous. Yeah, that's right.
in our circle. Okay, so how is it that you, I don't know, I don't feel like you, I don't know, I wouldn't have thought when I see you, oh, that's going to be a dentist. Now, at the same time, you are very nuanced in your craft, and you're also very gifted, socially. So I guess that does fit. But how did you end up in dentistry? Is this something that you just knew this guiding light was over your life, and you're like, I'm going to be a dentist?
Yeah, in 8th grade, I got hit playing basketball in my front tooth and had to visit, a bunch of dental stuff. And I was just like, this dentistry stuff is pretty cool. There was a dentist at my church that was that I admired, looked up to, and I was like, I want to check more into this dentistry stuff. And the more I checked into it, I was like, so it's the quintessential stuff, like I get to run my own business and call my own shots. It looks like it makes good money. The hours are great. You get to be good with people, science, art, in business and all that stuff. And I was like, this just seems, pretty cool. I don't know if I can make it, but let's give it a try. So, up until that point, I really hadn't tried much, in school. And once I started getting interested in dentistry, then I started deciding, that I was going to start trying at school. And so that's when I kind of changed from more of a Bart Simpson to a book nerd type. So yeah.
I don't even know where to go with that one because
I
I'm
know, right?
thinking, no, I'm thinking about the whole Bart Simpson. So is that in the sense of like social, comical, like center of the class kind of attention wise, you
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Like, okay. Because
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I
And that
see that
didn't
you have that
stop.
charisma.
Yeah, that didn't stop. It's just then it was more focused on. I always thought that there were smart kids, and I wasn't one. So I'm just serious. And so I thought, well, there's smart kids, and then there's me, and smart kids are smart, and like tough luck for me. And when I started actually learning, and I think it was from basketball, like the discipline of sports, that I figured out if I try hard, I can do uh, as the smart kids. And then I started, at certain things outperforming what I deemed as the smart kids in class. And then it really came down to when, they started saying, hey, what, how did you do this project, or how did you study for this test or whatever? I'd be like, why are you asking me? I'm this, like you're the smart kid, but then I realized I was like, wow, like maybe I'm smart because there's naturally smart people, and then like I've made up for it by trying hard. And like that there's effort people, and I don't still consider myself necessarily a naturally smart person, but I think because I've put in effort, that it either mimics or it competes or fools people or myself into being intelligent or whatever. But then at some point, what's the word mean? A rose is a rose. Like if I am wise slash witty slash intelligent slash finding ways to get stuff done, like an innovator, then call it what you want. I feel like there's people that are natural at it, and then there's people that try hard at it, and then there's people in the middle. And I'm just a hard trier. I try hard to to solve whatever is in front of me. I'm just a hard worker. So
So I wanted to interrupt you there so many times because I think the audience needs to know I've been in the dental industry, I mean, loosely since I was 14. You know, I was going to dental shows with my dad, and I've interacted with a lot of dental professionals, namely dentists. And when I met you, you had one of the sharpest intellects of any of the people I've met, Chad.
Oh, well, that's nice. Well,
But
thanks.
so just for the audience to know, but then it's fascinating what you shared because I love this idea of identity, and I didn't identify myself as a really smart person
Right.
originally. You know, you
No.
had maybe some social or emotional IQ that was, or EQ that was really high, and you weren't as confident in the IQ. And then all of a sudden, like I almost see you as an artist, this fusion of like a creative that's very gifted, and at the same exact time, I'm sure you have to work hard at certain things. Like I don't want to take that
Yeah.
away from you, your
Yeah.
diligence, but I also feel like you have these gifts and talents that are very unique,
Well,
which I think
thank you.
has even
Yeah.
led to why it is that you would even. So sorry. So to back up, for innovation in dentistry, like this isn't
Sure.
about technological innovation. Thank God,
No.
it's not about clinical innovation because it couldn't come from me. I'm not a clinician. It is all about the mindsets and belief sets that we have that
Correct.
empower us to want to pioneer and step out and make dentistry better. And you did that from like
Yes.
clinical dentist, which is more than enough, to all of a sudden, I want to be part of a tribe and I want to start leading and podcasting. What happened there?
Um, it was 2012 that I had an associate leaving, and my goal was, I think, financially driven. At one point, it was that I wanted to make as much production money the following year without that associate as when she was on board. And mostly because I was like, we kind of need to pay bills. And so that's when I started checking into Productive Dentist Academy. And that, I think, was what accelerated my leadership learning and leadership ability and training and honing in on that skill and craft. Um, and after a few years, I started getting better at being productive and seeing my weaknesses as a leader, and then kind of digging in. And that's a lifelong journey, but digging into that and figuring out, okay, how can I get better? And over time, they asked if I could come to the workshops and start telling people, because in essence, Bruce has arrived. Like he's made big progress, and then to have someone more like me, that it's like, okay, for example, in 2018, I think when I joined Productive Dentist Academy more as a faculty type position, and they didn't even really have the term, but that I was coming to the workshops and letting people know that it's like, I've been within this journey for 5 years. You can, within the next few years, catch up to where you want to be as well, as a leader, as a clinician, and stuff like that. So, in one sense, when I think about innovation in dentistry, the podcast title or the subject matter altogether, there was recently, and I'll give you a link that you could share with the audience, but I saw this short on YouTube that was with Elon Musk, and it's entitled, in case someone needs or wants to look it up later, Elon Musk laughs at the idea of getting a PhD and explains how to actually be useful, exclamation mark. And how he worded that was, someone said, so do you think getting a PhD is important? He said, no. And then he talked about the utility of getting a degree. And I took more in innovation in the general term, that he said, if someone has a way that they can help a lot of people a little bit, or help a few people a lot of bit, it's basically multiplying two axes, right? That you can be powerful within one small industry a ton, or you can help, fluoridate water, for example, and help a lot of people in a small way that they don't even care, but, like you made a huge difference, that both have a lot of use. And he said, if you're trying to get a PhD, the question would be, what kind of utility are you hoping to get out of it to help, a greater society, or a specific amount of people, and that both are useful. And I thought that was cool, because I was trying to think, when I thought about the title of this podcast, am I really, an innovator, or do I help the people that I touch in small ways? And I think that's maybe my gift is through Productive Dentist Academy workshop and through just the patients and the interactions, for example, yours, along the way, that I just try and have meaningful conversations, meaningful dialogues that impact that person enough that it helps, shape who they are for their future self. And that was a long diatribe. Sorry, but it's just a thought.
No, it's really great. Although I don't want you to downplay what you've been doing just on the podcast.
I hope so.
Approaching the 200th episode is no small
Yeah.
thing.
No, you're right.
And I think a lot of dentists would like to be like, hey, I would love to have a platform or be able to have more of a voice to influence, to lead, to pioneer. And I don't even know where to get started. And yet somehow, because you're trustworthy, because you connected with a tribe of awesome people like PDA, and
Yeah.
right away they saw, wow, like Chad is like, he's talented, he's passionate, he loves dentistry. Like that all comes through. And I think
Yeah.
one of the things I try to tell dentists is like, your most sustainable advantage is always going to be finding out how to be yourself and infuse that into dentistry. And it's a really challenging thing
Yes, it
because,
is.
as we're growing, we start off by modeling, and that's how you
Yes.
grow. That's how you learn language. That's how we end up having heroes, and we're like, man, someday if I could be like them, or if I could be like Dr. Bruce Baird, right? Who arrived, and he has, like, he even started a company, sold it. Like he's doing good,
Yep. You're right.
But at some point we have to be like, fulfillment only comes when I recognize that this is who I am, not that. I can get inspiration from that. I can get inspiration from that hero. I can take the best, but I still have to find a way for it to be me. And I feel like that's what you own yourself so well. I just saw a YouTube short or a Facebook short that you did. Oh, it was I don't know what you were doing. It was hilarious, but it had to do with the song lyric that
Oh.
I don't know if it was a salt or you were putting pour sugar on May.
Oh, yes. On May. Yeah. And
Yes.
so is the Def Leppard song, pour some sugar on me. But I've always thought it was weird, funny, whatever, that they would say, pour some sugar on May. And so I was just like, I was leaving my workout that morning. I was like, oh, it's May 1st. And of course, everyone always does the, it's gonna be May, for Justin Timberlake. And that's funny too. But for some reason, it just came to my mind. I was like, you know what? There's a coffee bar at the workout place, and I bet they have a sugar packet. And I'm going to work right now. I bet if I grab that sugar packet and then I printed off a little sheet of paper that said May, so that way it would show the context. And then I grabbed my my marketing guy, because I have an in-house marketing guy, another innovation that a lot of people don't do, but I have an in-house marketing guy. And I said, hey, video me real quick. And he's like, what are we doing? I said, just follow me. Let's go. And so, as you could tell, it was pretty impromptu. I said, I've always wanted to do this. Come out here. And I had already dropped the sheet of paper outside. And so I go and I say, I'm pouring some sugar on May. And it's just dumb stuff like that. But, some people, number one, wouldn't want to put their neck out there because they'd risk looking dumb. And it goes back to this. Think about this, Sean. I don't care about looking dumb because sometimes I'm like, I've never felt smart. So what do I care if I look dumb? Because I just think it's entertaining. Whether you actually think I'm dumb or not, I'm comfortable being me. So like, if I'm smart in some areas, I'm smart in some areas. If I'm not, it's just like, I don't care. I don't have any pretense to hold up to people. Like, and maybe that's the authenticity part. Because like so many people want the pretense to be like, I'm not that, or, like, I don't want people to know that I'm only 99% smart, not 100% genius. And for me, I'm just like, well, I've never thought I was in the first place. So I don't care what you think. And I hope that maybe I inspire you. But in the end, it had nothing to do with like whether, oh, well, that guy doesn't know, calculus as well as a genius mathematician. I'd be like, never said I was. That's not the important part. But yeah, pour some sugar on May.
Well, so I'm watching this and I'm genuinely like, okay, I'm captivated. And I'm like, where is he going to go with this?
Right.
And then the finale came and I was just like, again, if I was your patient, I'd be like, that is absolutely Dr. Johnson. That is Chad.
Yep.
That is who he is.
Yep.
it's not him seeing a TikTok reel and going, "Oh, let me
I'm
mimic
going to
that."
copy it. Right.
Right. It
Nope.
was unique. It was you, and it just builds connection to anyone in the community that sees that and
Yes.
they're like, "That's my dentist.
Yep.
I love this guy." So, like, congratulations on that. Like,
Yeah.
really,
Thanks.
that was amazing. It like made my day. Like, I was so happy seeing that
That's
because
awesome.
I want people to just occupy the space that only they can occupy.
Right. And I'm not trying to take over the world. I'm just trying to invite people into, and as you see on, for example, my office is called Veranda Dentistry. And so if you go to our Facebook page or Instagram, whatever, Veranda Dentistry, and you can tell I like barbecue. Why? Because we put that out there. And what does that matter? I mean, am I such a narcissist that I need people to know that I like barbecue? No. I like other stuff too, but it's a way to connect with people that they go, huh, especially in Iowa, we're a pork state. Okay. And, to have people go, all right, like he's just down to earth. He likes barbecue like, my uncle does, or like I do, or, my dad always liked barbecue, or, my sister. It's just a way to get people to go, meals are a way to connect with people, and just having silly pictures of me, sometimes, as we're eating barbecue, or sometimes I'll do a presentation of some kind of giveaway that we're doing where I, am recording it at the bar, because a meal is quintessentially human, right? I mean, like to sit down and commune with
Spanning
someone
all
and have a meal.
cultures. Spanning
Absolutely.
all cultures. Food is one of
Right.
those cultural staples that,
Yep. I had a Jewish rabbi professor at the University of Iowa who his class was, oh crud, I can't remember, it might have been like religions 1 or something like that, but his thesis, his topic was, there's 3 common things that connect everyone. And but he said every culture should be able to identify with this. It's these 3 things: food, sex, and death. And how we deal with those, and how we, and it was almost quirky, but you know what? It resonated well with me because, as you know, I'm that, but I connected well with him on, talking about those things. Why? Because I'm human too. He's human. And why would a, gringo, white Protestant guy like me connect well with this Jewish rabbi guy at the university? Because it's universal language. And so, again, back to, the stuff that we're doing on our social media, it's to connect with people. And we try not to put any judgy stuff like, you should floss more, like people advertise that kind of stuff. You should floss more. And it's like, that might be true, but that's not what they want to hear. That doesn't resonate like you're a good friend. When people come in too, and they'll say, I haven't flossed much. And I'll be like, listen, you don't need me to tell you need to floss more. That might be true, but it's the last thing that you want to hear from me. When you want to floss, you're going to floss more. If you don't want to floss more, you don't need me to tell you that. You know it. So it's the no judgment kind of stuff that we try and portray in our office.
Okay, so you did say something a while back that I wanted to circle back to. You were talking about, Chad, when you realized, like, yeah, the things started lining up and dentistry could be cool, and it's this opportunity, and then there's the this part of it, and there's some money, and there's all these things. So if you can go back to that, you have this kind of idea of what dentistry was. Tell me, in the first 2-3 years, when did something all of a sudden like show up and you're like, wow, like I didn't realize dentistry was so much more to that. And I don't mean in a good way. I mean like, oh my God, like this is a crazy profession. I wasn't expecting I also have to be this. What would that be?
Probably the HR, with the team. That's always tough. I had an assistant that I got rid of after, I don't know, something like 3 to 6 months of being open. And she was nice and all. It's just, I felt horrible about, having to let her go because it just wasn't working. And here I'm 25 at the time, I'm 25 years old, owning a business that's a dental office. Honestly, like it's almost unheard of these days, but this was 2005. And I've learned that patients are tough, but team is even tougher to deal with and manage, and whatever word you want to use to it. But yeah, the team expectations and the team dynamic is historically the tougher part. I'll give uh, some hope to people though, that I have found that now that I'm coming up this summer on 18 years of being a business owner, that I'm getting better at it. And I think I'm a solid B plus or A minus at this point, that like I'm getting there. I'm not perfect. And I try and be gracious when I'm not, that, like sometimes it is probably me. And sometimes, like it's that I've got shortfalls of my personality that either isn't going to make this relationship work or whatever. But yeah, it's the HR stuff after dental school.
So one of the things in my business journey, a mindset that I really had to, I actually don't know why I'm saying my business journey. It still has like plagued me up until the last few months. And it was the immature mindset that I was linking everything I was doing to an outcome instead of to an output, because I can't control the outcome. I can't control whether the marketplace says, yay, we love what you're doing. But outputs I can control every single day. If this is what I need to do, I can do those and I can feel like it's a success. But I keep linking things to outcomes and I get disillusioned. I get discouraged. In this arc of 18 years of business ownership, are there any mindsets that you just finally had to shed and let go of because they weren't serving you?
I think the thing that I've embraced better, so I'll say what I've gravitated towards, is what you're saying is stoicism. It's funny how ancient Greek philosophy can have a huge impact on so we can't control, like we can't worry about the things we can't control, right? I mean, that's a repackaged way of what you're saying. And it's like, that's stoicism. And so I'm more and more gravitating towards being like, whatever I can control, then I'll worry about, if worry is even the right word. And then it actually, stoicism kind of has some negative connotations, that it's like, well, no feelings and no happiness, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure, that you're not going to be happy down the road. And just be glum. And that would be one perception of stoicism. But stoicism also has an optimism about it, that it's like, listen, you can't control everything, and be all right with that. And actually, at the end of the day, rest well knowing that you controlled what you can control, and that your response is an important factor to it. And just because you perceive something one way doesn't mean that that is the truth of how the relationship is, between someone or something. So stoicism is what I gravitate towards. Let me stop, because I've been giving long answers and then you have to back up. What's your thoughts on that stoicism?
I don't think I've ever
Ooh,
like actually like linked, like I don't know much about the concept behind stoicism. I probably heard the term, whether it's in a movie or in some books,
sure.
but I've never actually researched it.
So check it out. I'll help you in a tangible way, because we're Audible buddies. The Ryan Holiday is the author, and the book is called "The Obstacle Is the Way," and it's a fantastic synopsis of Stoicism. But it doesn't get all preachy in the philosophy of Stoicism. It's very practical Stoicism. But it comes down to, like, control what you can control, then quit trying to control what you can't control. Like, and
It sounds so obvious, but we're hardwired. Like, because think about it.
right.
If you grow up and you're like, okay, even it says, I was just quoting this the other day. I think it's in First Corinthians where it's like, run the race in such a way that you can win the prize.
That's right.
It's a very literal, like, there is an objective prize. If your kid's playing a game, it's like there's an actual winner and a team that just fell short. We
That's
watch
right.
the Olympics, we watch people strive all the time, and there is a marketplace and there is an actual outcome sometimes of being on top, of arriving somewhere. So it's
Yes.
like sometimes in our goals or in our objectives or the things we're shooting for, it's actually, there's a locality to it, and yet that's where disconnect, like, I don't know how, like, striving for that but still somehow not. I think I get in trouble when I link my value or my worth or my momentum to how I'm interfacing with that. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
it does. And these are deep thoughts that everyone just has to wrestle with. And like the book title is, the obstacle is the way. The way you get there is to wrestle with that obstacle, and the journey is important. So backing up though, you asked, like, what have you shed? And I almost like, unfortunately for the podcaster's sake, you and I will message each other back and forth later when I've had some time to think about it. Because
You
that
can
is
always
such,
come back, Chad. There's
right. That's
always
such a
room
deep
for
question.
you.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, maybe that's what I'm setting myself up for, is just, why don't you, but that's one that I'm going to have to think about. What mentality did I shed? Oh, okay. I've got a really tangible one, and it goes back to coaching and PDA, Productive Dentist Academy. I mean, this isn't, my goal isn't to plug them as though I have some financial stake in, or ownership in the company. I'm just such a fan. And my mindset back in 2012 and prior, so, from '05 when I graduated to 2012, the first 7 years of my practice was, if you hire a consultant, they have no skin in the game, they tell you what to do, you pay them a lot of money, then you're on the hook still for coming up with, the results. And and that's one way of looking at it for sure. It's a very negative way of looking at it, but I thought that was just like the realistic way. I don't have, let's say at the time, I don't have $30,000 to give to someone to tell me what to do with my business, things I don't want to do. And on the other hand, if you find a consultant that you are comfortable with, then come to find out, in my journey, they never pressured me to do what I didn't want to do. They just say, what do you want to work on now? And it was a choose your own adventure. And, I kept on seeing results after results. And here I am, 11 years later, and I'm still using coaching, and I never would have saw that coming. Because now I'm still seeing progress in myself. And I that totally blew me away. I was very cynical about consulting, but if you find someone that you trust, then they're worth it. That would be my take home.
Okay, so that is absolutely brilliant, because the greatest achievers in any endeavor have someone that is helping them. I mean, Tom Brady still had a quarterback coach that would help him on mechanics to just still make his throwing form better. We're talking 18 years in, 20 years in. Tiger Woods, all these greats are still submitting themselves to get, even if it's like 0.5% better. We're not even talking 1%, like any edge they can get. And I really understand what you're saying about I don't know, for me, I think I also have been at times either cynical or a little jaded about who to trust. Because if you get burned, you almost want to isolate and become an island and be like, look, I'm just going to look within myself. You learn at a distance and figure it out. And it is very difficult to actualize, to, become the greatest version of yourself on an island. You need people.
Because I'll be bold, and I'm not calling anyone out, but that's cowardly. And we all have the potential to be cowardly. So what I'm saying is, within our human nature, we have the potential to be cowardly, each of us. And that we also have the potential to be brave. And to be brave, you have to put yourself out there. Wouldn't it be nice just to have no opinion and no stake in any game ever? But you're not going to, it goes back to the Rod Stewart song, "'Tis better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all." That you've got to stick your neck out. And it reminds me of another book by Jeffrey Colvin that is called "Talent is Overrated." "Talent is Overrated" is a book about when you're purposeful, about like when you do intentional practice, that you can get better. And he talks about Tiger Woods and stuff like that, and and hiring a coach to restructure his form. Why? Because getting the Pareto principle to the 80th percentile is maybe maybe somewhat of a challenge, but that last 20%, or to get to the top 1%, and then the top 0.1%, and then the top in the nation, the top in the world. Yeah. That takes a lot of effort to get to that. I mean, you see that in physics and chemistry, the electrons that are near the outside, are taking so much more energy. So there's so much that goes into that. It's not just some kind of like mental philosophy. It's like, no, you see that in nature, in physics and chemistry and biology and stuff like that, getting to the top, Pareto principle is based off of nature. He saw it in nature and stuff that you give everyone $100, and sure enough, a year later, some people have done some stuff with the $100. Other people have squandered it. And if you gave them all $100 again, it might be the same people that end up, outperforming. And because we don't have equity of outcome, we can have equality of input, but the output, it goes back to output. My goodness, this is fun, Sean.
You're awesome. Okay. But this is also part of the dynamic that we have. And that's why I was like, I need Chad to come on because.
Well, you're awesome too. That's why I love the concept of coming onto this. This is good times. If I were to be so bold, that we could have more discussions like this because, we always have.
Okay. So there's two different things I want to hit on. And one of them is about the fact that dentistry in general, has had some pretty dark times where, some of the best in dentistry get taken out by the profession because some of the lows can be very, very low with massive debt, feeling isolated, this whole idea of I have to keep appearances and show everyone that I'm a successful dentist.
Yep.
And that's led to suicide rates being uncommonly high. Mm-hmm. And combine that with what's been the dark night of the soul for you in dentistry, and how did you come out of that? Because some of our listeners may be in the midst of it, or some might be sliding into that. And it's like, here you are, you've made it 18 years in, or whatever you said, you're at a place where there's so much clicking, you're podcasting, you're leading, you're doing, but it probably wasn't always that way. So just to peer into the humanity of Chad and that struggle.
For me, it was COVID. And when they first closed down the, dentistry, and the state board, said you can't open indefinitely except for emergencies. And I had just bought 2 new practices. So I had just paid off my first practice, and I was buying 2 more because I was basically expanding my brand and wanting to kind of go that route, and a couple million in debt again. And all of a sudden my offices are closed. Well, how do you pay for your mortgage on a couple $1 million when you're closed? Right. So, I've always loved going to work until then. Like every day, like I'd be, people would be like, those tough days and I'd be like, no. Or they'd say, but like those tough weeks. And I'd be like, no. So it just didn't resonate well with me. Cause funny enough, one of my other little hacks is I don't really listen to my feelings about, I can block out stuff pretty well, which can be a benefit and a detraction. It's good to be in tune with yourself. And I can do that if I'm purposeful about it, but otherwise, like I'm good at just, not. And like, for example, I do triathlons and stuff, and zoning out of, is my hip hurting? It's like, don't ask, just run.
Right.
Or like, I feel like my ankle, it's like, well, ask yourself again in a half a mile. Cause sure enough, after a mile of kind of getting stretched out, you feel fine.
Yep.
And so like, quit asking. And
so it's like mental blinders, right?
Mental blinders. And it's so beneficial when you want to be a trooper, but then there's times when it's like, dude, you're bleeding. And I remember laying in bed during COVID, maybe it was the first few days, week that we were closed, and thinking, so much of my identity was being around being a dentist, and thinking I'm technically unemployed, and laying there and my heart was pounding faster, and thinking, like, what am I feeling? It was so foreign to me. I'm like, what is going on? And I realized I'm self-diagnosing, laying in bed. I'm like, I'm having a panic attack.
Hmm.
I've never had a panic attack. Huh? This, huh? I, I'm, I'm nervous. Now I want to have a trust in God where I come from, like my soul. I want to place my trust in God. This is a foreign feeling to me. Why am I feeling this? Why don't I just give it to God and let go? Why? And sitting there trying to like work through like, why am I not trusting him to see me through this? I mean, like, have we gone this far for him to just drop the ball on me? Or, do I not have the resolve also on my own end to take care of my family and the business and, whatever, like, won't we see through it 6 months from now? Hopefully, won't we be out of this? But I still was like, my heart rate when I get ready for bed, it starts to go under 50, and I'll wake up. My little aura ring will tell me that sometimes I'm in the 30s. And
Wow.
right. And so like, I knew something was wrong when my heart rate was, like 70 or 80 when I'm laying down for bed. And I'm just like, why is it this way? So that was the worst time. How did I resolve out of that? I mean, man, at that point we were growing the brand right at the time when everything shut down. So I was at 23, 24 employees, and, and I decided to zig when others would zag. And I just went total fee for service. I sent a letter to all the patients saying, we're not going to participate in your network. I don't think that I can feasibly charge what we need to charge to have this place be safe and give the quality that we need to when insurance dictates to me what we need to, like what we can collect. And so with variable expenses going up, the volume game doesn't work. I was like, screw this, I'm done. And so I took charge in that direct manner, was getting rid of the insurances. And then over time, I started crafting the office to become more of what I needed it and wanted it to be. And that started relaxing me more. We were closed 9 weeks. And when we opened up, it still was tough because patients weren't coming in. And about a year later, that was rough because I was like, it was the first time, a foreign thought, that I was like, I really don't like work. I think I'd rather just go ride my bike, or honestly, I'd rather get my CDL and drive a truck right now. Cause just putting up with patients, putting up with teammates that are worried, or, like I have to worry about my own nervousness. I don't want to worry about their nervousness too. So I recognize that I wasn't the best leader during that time. And that was tough, but I was quick to admit it to myself, because I'm like, I know what good leadership looks like. And I'm cocky enough to think that normally I provide pretty good leadership, and it's not happening right now. We'd have Zoom calls. I'd be like, I don't care. I don't want to sit around and talk about this. I don't want to mull over this more. It's just really getting, but they'd be like, it's healthy. Let's talk it through. And I'm like, maybe, but I'm mentally sick right now, and I don't want to participate. I'd rather just go to bed. I'm like, so depression, I don't know. It was weird. And I'm glad that I got out of it, but I've been there before and it was rough.
Okay, so in this moment,
Yeah.
who gave you a guarantee that your strategy was going to work?
Oh, no one.
Okay, okay. So you had no guarantee. What if it failed?
Yeah. I answer that rhetorically as much as the question was a rhetorical. It's like, yeah, it could have. And you know what? I was just like, we're burning the ships. And we're going to plant ourselves in this new space of fee for service. And if fee for service doesn't work for me, then screw it. But I'm going to take this either to new levels, or we're going to sink by this leadership. I did.
So was that terrifying?
No, I felt more in control because I was making the course and just choose, because sometimes it's not the right against the wrong. It's choosing and sticking to a decision.
Massive action versus inaction.
Yes. And so I was like, because they'd be like, the team, all right, maybe we should. And I'd be like, nope, ain't going to happen. This place will close you will find jobs elsewhere, and I will go work as a realtor before I go back. And they've heard me say that. I'm like, I'll go into realty. I will, I swear. I'll get a truck license and I'll just drive a truck or something, but I'm not going to go back to doing high volume, fast dentistry. I want to provide quality.
Chad, being on that cusp of the unknown, that precipice of just like looking into the future and being like, I have no idea. This could totally just tank the practice. Everyone's knocking on my door, looking to me as a team. I need to lead. I'm uncomfortable with the unknown, with the lack of certainty. And the fact that you somehow got composure, boldness, stepped out, led, and it did work. Like, I just want to honor you for that. Like
Thanks.
Even as me, as an entrepreneur, I don't feel like I was naturally an entrepreneur. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I was like that the whole way. I don't think that was me. And some of the most uncomfortable parts of being entrepreneurial to me has been the lack of certainty. It's been the what if I fail, and trying to figure out if I'm going to fail, I need to fail forward.
Yeah.
And it's actually true learning that takes place when we interact with the market and not just theorize. And I don't know about you, I kind of have a feeling I love theorizing. Like, I could just learn and be an educator and never have to interact with reality, just stay in my realm of thoughts and concepts and exploring that. And now maybe I wouldn't be fully satisfied, but intellectually, I love that space.
Yeah. I had a lot of time for thinking. When we were closed, I'd go on 5-hour bike rides. I just would go out and ride out in the country. And I'm just like, this is healthy for me to burn off some of this energy. And I'm just going to go out for a 5-hour bike ride. And
bike brand, what is it? Specialized?
Cervelo.
Oh, isn't that Italian?
It is. Yep. But it's kind of big in the tri-sphere. Yeah.
So is it a tri-bike?
Tri-bike. Yep. Okay. TT bars. Yeah.
Yep.
So I would pop in my earbuds and I would listen to Audible, just one after another, and just hour after hour. I just even remember on a bike ride, a 5-hour bike ride, I think I got all the way through Psalms 1 through 150, all in one ride. You could do that. I could, one time, I'm trying to think, like when I was on 1.8 speed, if I would just crush through stuff, and the goal wasn't to get done. I was thinking about stuff minute after minute, hour after hour. And so I was exercising, which is healthy for your brain and your body. And I was thinking, which is healthy for an entrepreneur, for your brain and body. And that really helped focus me. I think it's just like a rat on a wheel. They're not necessarily going anywhere, but at least they're doing something. And I'm not saying doing something is better than doing nothing, because sometimes doing nothing is. But for me, the focus was good. The focus was good being on that bike ride, and you've been there before. I mean, you know that exercise and that discipline. Maybe that's what it was even though I was in a prison camp, I was going to get up and salute and walk in formation and do little things that kept me in the mindset that I'm still a soldier and I still own a business. We might not be making money, but doggone it, I'm the captain of this ship. I'm the owner of this business. We're going to see it through.
And you're still literally in motion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Literally.
Right? Like
yes.
There's something about, I remember I went and visited, where I'm from in New Hampshire on a vacation, and I didn't have a vehicle. And the family I was staying with, they let me borrow just like a bike that they had. It's a small town, but stuff's still pretty disconnected. Like the speed limit's 30 miles an hour, right?
Yeah.
And I just started biking. And again, this isn't like a road bike. This is a mountain bike. I'm not going fast because I don't want to get super sweaty. But I wanted to go to friends' houses or different places where I could see people. And having that time and that, I don't know, almost like that pace that was broken down, like to just think and be with my thoughts, and almost kind of made me think, like even back in like biblical days of Paul walking from Samaria to Judea.
And having all that time to think. Yes.
Right.
Hey, which part of New Hampshire were you from?
Southern New Hampshire. It's just north of Nashua, south of Manchester, Merrimack.
Okay, Londonderry, Merrimack. I'm looking on Google Maps in case someone wondered how I knew that. I didn't. I was just looking it up. Um, so yeah, near the Stonyfield Farms factory. Look at
Yes.
that.
There's a
Yeah,
Budweiser Anheuser-Busch that actually even has the Clydesdales in Merrimack, New Hampshire.
in
It's kind of like
Merrimack.
our claim to fame. You know, you can
Yeah,
smell the hops when you're driving to
it's
soccer
beautiful up
practice.
there. It's
It is.
beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where I want to go and close.
All right.
I have a question that I've been asking, and it's just a fun question. But before I ask the question, is there anything you want to bring attention to? Either like, hey, follow me on Facebook, or check out what I'm doing in my practice, or there's a workshop for PDA. Like, what would you want our
Sure.
listeners, their eyeballs to go right now in this moment?
Yep. Because I'm just a dentist. I'm not well, what I'm saying is I'm not promoting my own stuff. So I have, you can check out Veranda Dentistry, but it's more or less for your own interest. If you wanted to push yourself, I would say there's one finite thing that you could do is twice a year currently, and it historically was 3 times a year, but twice a year we have our PDA workshops. It's normally March and September. It's normally in the Dallas Fort Worth area around where Dr. Bruce Baird lives. If you want to check him out like I did, go to YouTube and also Vimeo and check out Bruce Baird, some of his stuff. I was hooked on his Enigma, like there was something about him that was just really fantastic. And I knew I could trust him without even having met him. And so very relatable. So the workshops for PDA twice a year, check those out. Bring your team would be my recommendation. Someone recommended that I do that, and I took them up on that, and that made a big difference. The bigger, broader thing I was going to say was, listen, get Audible and be listening to books. I'm not talking about self-help books for the sake of helping yourself per se, though, books do help you in that the author of that thought brings to mind a meditation that you're having on a certain idea and helps you ruminate it and cultivate it and become more formed in how you think about those things. And I just can't believe how much time I have, 10 minutes here and 5 minutes here and 20 minutes there that I'm listening to Audible. And it really helps me connect with the best thought provoking authors, on topics all over the board. But that makes me a better leader and a better businessman, a better father, better husband, all that stuff.
Okay, so before I close,
Yes.
a curveball. Name a challenging business book that you'd recommend to our readers.
Way of the Wolf by Jordan Peterson. Not Jordan Peterson, Jordan Belfort. And it's the same one as the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, but it's the business book aspect of selling, and that guy's genius at selling. It's fantastic. It has nothing to do with dentistry and everything to do with dentistry. You would love the book too. So Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort.
Okay, and why did you answer so quickly? I'm just
because that's been my favorite book. Not that I keep on rereading it, but I was so impressed with that book. And it just is. It's my answer for, like, if someone says, hey, give me a book, if they're a dentist or an entrepreneur, Way of the Wolf, for sure.
Okay, so here we go, Chad. I think you're going to be ready for this. Let's go back 18 years. Yes. If you want to say, how old are you?
I'm 43 now. I was 25 right then when I graduated.
Okay, so you graduated, you're 25. Chad of today is walking by 25-year-old Chad, and
Sure.
You have one sentiment you can communicate to him. What is that sentiment?
I took a deep breath for this. The moment has already passed, because it's like
you're like, wait, Chad.
I know, you're like,
You can pick him up, put him over your shoulder, and walk a bit while you're thinking. It's okay.
This almost sounds so corny, but it's like, you have the skill set and the drive to do what you're going to accomplish over the next 20 years. Do it. Be true to that and just do it. I think that'd be it. My goal would be to give him resolve that in fact, there's not a nugget, out there that it's going to be like, what, but like, just, man, 25-year-old Chad is just as genuine as 43-year-old Chad. Just do it. Implement it.
I absolutely love that. Dr. Chad Johnson, thank you so much, because
Thank you as well, Sean.
You are an innovator. I love the difference that you're making in dentistry, and I love the fact that
That's
you have
kind of
the
you to say.
courage to just own who you are in the
Yeah.
space, and you do it brilliantly. I'm behind you in all of your future endeavors. I just want you to know that.
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate listeners. If you want to get a hold of me personally, chaddds@gmail.com. If you're in a mess and you want someone objective to give his 2 cents worth, I'm glad to give my thoughts. They're worth what you paid for them, but I'm willing to hear you out. And I love mentoring people. So bring it on. And Sean, let's do this again.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Chad.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to follow so you never miss an episode. To learn more about what's going on in dentistry, check out innovationindentistry.com.